Okay, on to number 3. This Northern Wei dynasty. Quite simply, something really interesting happens. Those Xianbei, so this is the word that you want to know, and it's just so interesting. To sinify. To sinify. S-I-N means China. So you may have heard of the Sino or Sino-Japanese War. So to sinify means to become Chinese. When you're not Chinese, but you become Chinese. And simply put, when the Xianbei took over the Yellow River, when the Jin collapsed, look at the timeline here. From 307 to 439, it was just all-out war. So for over 100 years after the Jin fled south, you've got nomads fighting for over 100 years. But finally, the Xianbei unify the north, and they create a nomad dynasty on the Yellow River, the Wei and Yellow. In 439, the Northern Wei. They created a nomad dynasty because they took over the cities and they stopped being nomads. And they became Chinese. They Sinicized. So the Northern Wei is a really interesting, and it's our first example of it. Of foreigners conquering China and becoming Chinese instead of Canadians staying Canadian when they take over America, right? They conquer China, but China, the irony, Chinese culture ends up conquering the conquerors. Here's my evidence real quick. And so notice, the Northern Wei lasted for 125 years or so. 471 to 526. I'm sorry. 439 to 526. So basically 100 years of this Northern Wei. Write it down, easy. Don't be lazy, don't be wimps. From 439 to 526, the Northern Wei. This is the Xianbei. They had unified China. They had unified the north. They beat the Xiongnu, and they made Wei River, Yellow River, barbarian dynasty on the Central Plain. How did they become Chinese? In a nutshell, I'm just going to give it to you a list. They had non-Chinese names because they were nomads. The king who founded the complete dynasty, he looked at what he saw going on in the South and such, and what he learned about China, and he was like, these people know how to do it. They know how to run civilization, so we're going to change our names to Chinese names. So they changed their names to Chinese names. 2, they intermarried with Chinese. The people that they conquered, instead of treating them like second-class citizens, they instead mixed their blood with them. So they encouraged interracial mixing. They started a centralized bureaucracy run by Confucians. 4th, they built an incredible capital in Luoyang. And they invited all the southern refugees, and they built a capital in Luoyang, and they invited southern Chinese who had run away. All these Chinese who considered these nomads enemies, they said, come back, we're civilized. Come back, those of you who ran south. And so 30,000 elite Chinese families did go up and live in the capital in Luoyang at the invitation of this barbarian king of the Wei Dynasty. Yeah. How do you spell what? That's the second city. That's the second city on your geography quiz, right? Luoyang. Yeah.
Did the Xianbei know how to speak Chinese?
They learned it. They learned the writing, and they assimilated into the Confucians, the whole thing. So, and they started dressing Chinese. They outlawed their traditional costume, and they started dressing in Chinese ways. Everything, completely. They just became Chinese. Yeah.
Why would they build a capital when they have the way
Because during the 100 years where there was no unity, just a bunch of nomads fighting each other, their power base was in the center, not on the way. It was on the yellow, the central plain. And so that's where they built their capital. Just simply put. What happened to the Wei? When the emperor of the Wei who Sinicized, or the king of the Wei who Sinicized, did that, the other Xianbei soldiers, traditional nomads, in the different army bases throughout this unified northern kingdom, they looked at what these city people, you know, radicals, were doing and becoming Chinese, and they were offended by it. This would be like, you know, southern rednecks saying, I ain't going to become a Canadian. Damn Canadians take away, I ain't going to become a Canadian. And so the relatives out in the countryside, the army bases, they came in and invaded their king's capital city of Luoyang that he just built. Gorgeous. We have records of it. It's just gorgeous thing. And they just burned it to the ground. And the whole thing ended. And things went to hell again. That was in 526. So the north just went to hell.
Wait, so people from the south used to get back there?
No, not people from the south. The Xianbei. From the different army bases.
Oh, so different Xianbei came in just to sort of...
Yeah, the traditional Xianbei who were not in the capital city saw this new capital city and all this radical stuff going on there. What, they're changing their names and dressing like the Chinese we conquered? The hell with that, let's go kill them. And they burned down the capital city and they ended this amazing barbarian Chinese dynasty. We got through 4 out of 5. Hey, if you guys want tea and cookies, you're going to have to like come in early enough to get it started because I can't. I would love to be able to do it.